Shalom, shalom, beloved. It's me, Angel, another saint. Forgive me for saying what I don't want to say. Here we go. What do we read, beloved? Angel has the opportunity to read right now. The time and the place, and I want to be. We read chapter 20 of Jasher. We just read that one. I just read that one, but I love you, beloved. To me, I know that there's some of you that love me, and I love all of you. And there goes that word again. And well, let's read 21. Let's continue. Okay, so here we go. And it was at that time, Abba, thank you for this reading. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for my babies, Abba. Abba, I pray for all the babies everywhere, all the children. I pray for all the mommies everywhere. I pray for all the daddies as well. I pray for all the brothers and the sisters. Thank you for being merciful and gracious to us, Abba. Wherever we're at, you are still with us. And thank you for having different callings for every single one of us. And thank you for allowing me to read your word and post them. For all this channel is only for you, Abba. Only for you, for your glory, Abba. Everything else just follows along, Abba. For my babies, for my beloved, for the new believers, for all the lost. Thank you, Abba, for this platform. Thank you. Bless this reading, Abba. Please. Thank you, Yahusha. Thank you, Ruach HaKodesh, for your hunger, for your thirst that you've put in me to do this. Amein. In Yahusha's name, amein. Here we go, beloved. Jasher 21. Yashar 21. And it was at that time, at the end of a year and 4 months of Abraham's dwelling in the land of the Philistine in Gerar, that Elohim visited Sarah. And Yahuah remembered her, and she conceived and bore a son to Abraham. And Abraham called the name of the son which was born to him, which Sarah bore to him, Yishak. And Abraham circumcised his son Yishak at 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded Abraham to do unto his seed after him, and Abraham was 100 and Sarah 90 years old when Yitzchak was born to them. Abba, I want more babies. And the child grew up, and he was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast upon the day that Yitzchak was weaned. And Shem and Eber and all the great people of the land, and Abimelech, king of Philistine, and his servants, and Phicol, the captain of his host, came to eat and drink and rejoice at the feast which Abraham made upon the day of his son Yitzchak's being weaned. Also Terach, the father of Abraham, and Nachor, his brother, came from Haran, they and all belonging to them, for they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. Nachor, Terach, Haran. Beloved, sometimes I got all three right. Sometimes I try to pronounce the names as best as I can, as best as I think they're pronounced. And I'm sure I get a bunch of them wrong. But right now I checked those three and they were right. Praise Abba. And they came to Abraham, and they ate and drank at the feast which Abraham made upon the day of Yitzchak's being weaned. And Terach and Nachor rejoiced with Abraham, and they remained with him many days in the land of Philistine. Philistine. Oh, I guess that one was wrong. I keep saying Philistine, but it's Philistine. 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 Oh, I see it now. Philistine. Duh. At that time, Serug, I am not going to be doing this all the time. At this time, Serug, the son of Reu, look, that one doesn't have a pronunciation hyperlink or whatever it's called. Verse 9. And at that time, Serug, the son of Reu, died in the first year of the birth of Yitzchak, son of Abraham. And all the days of Serug were 239 years, and he died. Wow. And Yishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah bore Yitzchak to Abraham. And Elohim was with Yishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up, and he learned to use the bow and became an archer. And when Yitzchak was 5 years old, he was sitting with Yishmael at the door of the tent. And Yishmael came to Yitzchak and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Yitzchak. And that right there, beloved, is why they keep sending rockets to you know where. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Yishak, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And he rose up early in the morning, and he took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness. Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, with the inhabitants of the wilderness of Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And he and his mother afterward went to the land of Mitzrayim, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a woman for her son from Mitzrayim, and her name was Merivah. And the woman of Ishmael conceived and bore 4 sons and 2 daughters, and Ishmael and his mother and his woman and children afterward went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness in which they dwelt, and they continued to travel and then to rest monthly and yearly. And Elohim gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Abraham his father, and the man increased in cattle. And Ishmael dwelt in deserts and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time, and he did not see the face of his father. And in some time after, Abraham said to Sarah his woman, I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael, for he heard that he was dwelling in a tent in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Abraham went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon, and he asked after Ishmael, and he found the woman of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children, and Ishmael, her man, and his mother were not with them. And Abraham asked the woman of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his woman Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's woman, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. Wow, beloved, today I was fatigued. I took a big drink of water, And all of a sudden, I felt myself get a boost of energy. Wow. My brother was right. He said this water is going to heal you. Thank you, Abba. Oh, forgive me. My brother wants nothing to do with this virtual stuff, so let this be the last time I mention him. Amen. In Yahusha's name. Amen. And Yishmael's woman answered and said to Abraham, we have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her man Yishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Yishmael's woman to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. Amen. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent. And the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Yishmael's woman, when your man Yishmael returns home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of Pelishtim came hither to seek you, and thus was his appearance and figure, and I did not ask him who he was. And seeing you were not here, he spoke unto me and said, when Yishmael your man returns, tell him thus did this man say, when you come home, put away this nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. And after that Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent, and his woman spoke these words to him. A very old man from the land of Pelishtim came to seek you. And thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was. And seeing you were not at home, he said to me, when your man comes home, tell him, thus says the old man, put away the nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Ishmael heard the words of his woman, and he knew that it was his father, and that his woman did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words, that he had spoken to his woman, and Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father, and Ishmael cast off that woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, 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 on Canaan, Canaan. And Yishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, and he took another woman, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. And at the end of the 3 years, Abraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael, my son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel and went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his woman came out of the tent, and she said, He is not here, my Adoni, for he has gone to hunt in the fields and to feed the camels. And the woman said to Abraham, Turn in, my Adoni, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for your soul must be wearied on account of the journey. And Abraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey. But give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him, and she urged him to eat. And he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed Yahuah, and he said to Ishmael's woman, When Ishmael comes home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of Pelishtim came hither and asked after you, and you were not here. And I brought him out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me. When Ishmael, your man, comes home, say unto him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. Amen. And Abraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off to his home to the land of Pelishtim. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his woman went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, An old man came here from the land of Pelishtim, and thus was his appearance. And he asked after you, and you were not here. So I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me. When Ishmael, your man, comes home, say to him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. And Ishmael knew that it was his father, and that his woman had honored him, and Yahuah blessed Ishmael. Amen. So it is. Remember, beloved, don't follow men. not any men follow Abba. Every one of us falls short and we make mistakes, and Abba is the only one that is good and perfect, and He will always be leading us. Thank you, Yahusha. Thank you, Ruach HaKodesh, for this reading. Amen.